My dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, strictly by following the rules and regulations of household life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in water by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. I think this is Narada Muni speaking to Rahugana. Jad Bharat, then, okay. I didn't look around and see. Purport. Should I read that again? I'll read it more speedily this time. My dear King Rahugana, and unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmachari, strictly following the rules and regulations of household life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in water by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by fire in the scorching heat of sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. Purport. Actually, knowledge of transcendental bliss can be bestowed upon anyone by a pure devotee. Vedesu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. One cannot attain the perfection of spiritual life simply by following the directions of the Vedas. One has to approach a pure devotee. Anya bilasita sunyam jnana karmani anabhritam. By the grace of such a devotee, one can understand the absolute truth, Kṛṣṇa, and one's eternal relationship with him. A materialistic person sometimes thinks that simply by executing pious activities and remaining at home, one can understand the absolute truth. That is denied in this verse. Nor can one understand the absolute truth simply by observing the rules and regulations of brahmachari. One only has to serve the pure devotee. That will help one understand the absolute truth without fail. So, that, in brief, is the sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Service to the pure devotees. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva. It is 3 times it is said Harinam, 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 and 3 times it is said Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva. So, in many places, a reference is given how to achieve the perfection in life, how to achieve the perfection in devotion. In this case, how to realize the absolute truth. In other places, how to perfect oneself in the chanting of the holy name, the Maha Mantra. And in all circumstances, this is the foremost suggestion. For example, in a parallel verse, I believe it's Prabodhananda Saraswati in Chaitanya Chandramrita, he says that one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and particularly, one cannot understand the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, unless he has immersed himself in the foot dust of the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and particularly the pure devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without bathing in that foot dust, it is not possible to understand clearly who he is. So, should this be taken literally? What do you think? Well, that wouldn't hurt, would it? I've seen people come along behind Srila Prabhupada on a morning walk in a farm and collect dust out of his footprints and such. But then that was kind of hard to do in the cities. How do you get this foot dust? So this instruction is both figurative and direct. If we have the opportunity to actually take the foot dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa, then that will bring us a very wonderful fortune. Nonetheless, if we neglect the vani, the instruction, it will take lifetimes for that foot dust to affect. Dust holds a very high position in the spiritual world, and the most negligible thing in connection with Krishna's dearest devotees is the dust on the bottom of their feet. That's the most negligible part of their existence. So even the most negligible connection with a higher devotee will bring a great wealth to us. But if we only take it in terms of the dust itself, then our progress will be very, very slow. But indeed, if one gets that dust actually from the foot of such a great soul and puts it on his head, there will be some super benefit. But if one neglects the instruction, then it will take a long time. It could take tens of thousands of lifetimes before one could see the result. So, there are many processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a pure devotee. So in the beginning of the verse, it was talking about the foot dust. But at the end of the verse, it is referring to the mercy. So what is meaning the mercy? What is mercy also? When we analyze what is mercy, we will also come to the vani, the instruction. The mercy is just not the kindness to forgive us for our mistakes. It is just not the gentle caress on the head. Yesterday, some of the devotees saw the film of Srila Puri Maharaj blessing devotees, touching their head. Many people would come for that type of a blessing, and that is wonderful to get that type of mercy. But there were others. They were rigorously serving at a great distance even. They were cooking, sweeping, preaching, printing, distributing, doing so many things at a great service. And they never got the chance to take the dust of Prabhupada's feet, or they never got the chance to have that assuring hand of Srila Puri Maharaj on their head. Should we assume they have no dust for Abhishekam, and thus they will wander forever in this world? They did not get that affectionate hand on their head, and therefore they will wander for eons of lifetimes in darkness, wondering what is the absolute truth. If we think like that, then we are gravely mistaken. One will receive the foot dust, the essence of that foot dust. One will receive the essence of that mercy, kripa, guru kripa, Vaishnava kripa, through seva, through service. I think it said, it was either in the purport, no, one bestow. I thought maybe directly service was mentioned. Not. One only, oh yes, yeah. One only has to serve, and as the last part of the verse, we start with foot dust in the verse. The last part of the verse, it is actually the mercy that we are seeking. And the last part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions, one only has to serve. That's all one has to do. One doesn't have to learn. One doesn't have to meditate. One doesn't have to speculate, conjure. One doesn't have to assert himself to understand Kṛṣṇa. Only one has to serve the pure Vaishnava. Then everything comes down to him, and in a way that is perfect, without opportunity even of flaw. Sometimes when preaching, we tell a story. I could have very easily said, oh, it is Narada Muni speaking to King Rahugana. I could have very easily made this mistake. Maharaj corrected me. No, actually it was Jud Bharat. But let us say I'd have made the whole mistake and just went on. Would it have changed the Siddhanta any? Would it have changed anything really? Not really. Not really. Sometimes, for example, Srila Prabhupada wrote in his Bhāgavatam, Kunti had 5 sons. I mentioned this the other day. And some Indian gentleman, 25 years ago said, this is a mistake. And then it proves that Swami Prabhupada is not a real Acharya. He has made mistake. Because actually 2 sons are Madris and 3 sons are Kuntis. So even if we said, oh, that's a mistake, does that change anything? Does that type of mistake change anything? No. There are misspelled words in the Bhāgavatam. Maybe not in the Sanskrit, but in the English translation. Does that change anything? And the answer is no. But in a higher plane, a very high plane, aprakrita lila, we should not risk any mistake there, because everything has profound meaning and value. Therefore, don't try to go there with 2 shoulder bags and a backpack of anarthas and mud on the bottom of your shoes, with lead weights on your ankle. You'll never make it up that cliff. But when you are fit for that plane, they will send down a lift for you, and simply it will take you there without any opportunity of flaw. And the secret, the key is here, seva, through service. It is not necessary for every individual to become vastly learned in the scriptures. Although every guru, and Srila Prabhupada particularly, he liked his devotees to learn slokas, not be able to say anything. And it was the wonder of the Krishna consciousness movement that someone could spin around in the garden with a hoe in their hand and quote Bhagavad Gita and preach to a Sunday visitor. Or somebody, I remember in South Africa, we used to preach to the guests while we were cooking the Sunday feast. We allowed them to come in and watch what we were doing because it was so attracting. The cooking and the puris cooking. And we were cooking and preaching. Someone is gardening and preaching. And some are preaching and preaching. That's their duty. The Shastra. So naturally those people, those devotees, they may be a little more learned. That does not mean the more learned understand the absolute truth better. Because learning, study, even the Vedas, cannot reveal the absolute truth. They only give a friendly word of advice and to some extent try to inform us of the value of the absolute truth in relation to this world. Therefore, some wonder of that world is described. The Vedas try to tell us what that is and how to get there. But it's very hard to serve the Vedas. Very hard to serve the Vedas. The Vedas tell us, here, we're reading what is there in the Vedas. The Vedas tell us to serve the devotee. Devotees, it is said, devotees. We should not think that there is only one devotee. If there is only one devotee and now there is no devotee, then the earth would fall out of orbit. The scientists haven't understood The only thing that keeps the planet in orbit, and the only thing that keeps any of us on this planet, it's not gravity. It's the presence of devotion. It's the presence of the Lord's devotees. Without them, this planet would just float off into oblivion. There have been devotees on this planet since the day it began. Once Srila Prabhupada was talking to a gentleman in India, in Bombay, and they were talking about Guru, and the man, it was a very fast-moving conversation. The man said, Swami B.G, Guru is always there. And Prabhupada said, yes, Guru is always there. The problem is we can't find him because it's not an objective search. The search for Guru, the search for Kṛṣṇa is not successful when only executed from our side. We have some little endeavor, but it's an objective search. It means we only hanker like a crying child. We cry for the attention of the mother. And hearing that sound, the mother comes. So we are to cultivate an eagerness to know what is God, an eagerness to be out, in the beginning an eagerness to be out from this life of ignorance. And then it will come down. Everything of value comes down to us. Then the connection of Guru comes down to us. Then we will find Guru. There are many people who saw Prabhupada. Sometimes we think that would be the be-all and the end-all of every schism and every confusion today if only Prabhupada were here. It is not so. Still there would be schisms and confusion. They existed when he was here. They may have amplified when he departed or something like that. That is also there. But many people come straight in front of the truth and cannot recognize it. Sisupal many times had Kṛṣṇa darshan. He couldn't recognize the beauty of Kṛṣṇa. He became very frustrated. Oh, what is his caste? You know, we can't even understand what caste this man comes from. He's a Kshatriya, is raised in a village. I mean, we don't even understand what caste he is. And he's in front of the form of beauty. He's in front of the absolute truth personified. He can't understand that. He lacks the qualification. So, but if we enter in the line of service, humble and submissive service to our Guru and to our parampara connection, then such things will not go unnoticed, and we will not remain in ignorance. We will not remain without a proper understanding of the truth. But then we look around and say, well, then why hasn't everybody understood everything already? Because there are devotees who are going on sometimes for 30 and 40 years with service. Or they were in service and then suddenly they just did an about face and went out the door and just embraced Maya, embraced the tiger, and left it all behind. There's an assurance. It is given simply by serving the lotus feet, the foot dust, the lotus feet of the pure devotee. Simply by serving, you will receive his mercy. And after years of service, gone. Where's the defect? Aparad. That is a defect. If we make aparad, then there will be a great problem. It is the only thing that can, what do you call it? When you shrink something down? Diminish this problem. It's not, it's like, minimize, it means like constrict. It means like to not condense. That'd be good if it was condensed. Anyway, it's the only obstruct, like obstruct. It is the only thing that can obstruct. If we have taken the holy name in the line and what to speak of directly from those empowered acharyas who come down. There is only one thing that can stand in our way, and that is Vaishnava aparad and Nam aparad. Actually, Vaishnava aparad is one of the Nam aparads. So there are 10 offenses to the holy name. If we make those offenses, then we will be blocked. If, just can read something here. If this is Srila Prabhupada's translation, then it will be sure to mention it. In the Shikshastakam, let me see, where's the Shikshastakam? Let me just look it up here in the back for a minute. 36, okay. All right, this isn't Srila Prabhupada's original translation. The verse Nam Nam Kari Bahu the Nija Sarva Shaktish, which is the second verse. This translation says, O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of transcendental names, such as Kṛṣṇa and Govinda, in which you have invested all your transcendental potencies, energies. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. So this may also be actually Srila Prabhupada's direct translation, but in numerous places it is added here. Due to offenses, I have no attraction. It's not that you just have no attraction. It's due to something. And I have read it in Bhakti Vinod, I have read it in Sarasvatī Ṭhākura, I've read it in numerous disciples of Sarasvatī Ṭhākura, and I have read it in Prabhupada also. It is said there repeatedly that because of offenses, therefore we have no taste, you see. So no taste for the holy name, no taste for the absolute truth, no realization of truth. So many things no, so many things down, so many things lost because of offense. Nam aparad. And in Nam aparad, Vaishnava aparad. The worst of worst offenses. There are many incidences in the Leela of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu where he showed by example how cautious one should be about Vaishnava aparad, particularly Vaishnava aparad. I mentioned the one the other day where the devotee Gopal Chapel, he made offense to Srivas Pandit. He put the substances outside his door, and then his fingers fell off, his poor nose fell off, the poor guy's nose fell off, his lips fell off, his ears fell off. He was just a nub of leprosy. And he came begging to Mahaprabhu, crying, weeping when Mahaprabhu was coming back from the Ganga. And pitifully he was crying in front of Mahaprabhu, please help me see my condition, what has happened to me. And then Mahaprabhu told him, you remain like this for 10,000 births. And he just left. He just left him there. And that man stayed in that miserable condition of life for 5 years. 5 years. More, a little more than 5 years. Maybe even up to 7 years. Mahaprabhu took sannyas. He went off to Puri. He stayed for some time. He went to South India. He toured India. After 6 or 7 years, he came back to Navadvip, to the opposite side of the Ganga. And at that time, he delivered the last of the offenders there, which included this Gopal Chapel. And Mahaprabhu forgave him when he had actually become repentant himself for the offense to Srivas Pandit. In the beginning, he was only repenting because he was suffering. Oh, I'm suffering, I'm sorry. Later, he became sorry when he realized that he had offended someone who was very dear to Kṛṣṇa, very dear to Mahaprabhu. Then he understood, you see. like I gave the example, children, they do something wrong and then they're punished, or they're not beaten or anything, but they're punished and they're restricted or something like this, so they learn, and then they're sorry. Or a criminal, or better, a criminal, he does something and then he stands in front of the judge, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. What is he sorry for? He's only sorry he got caught. That's what he's sorry for. He's not sorry of the inconvenience he caused those people when he burglarized them, the fear he caused in those people in the night. And he's not sorry for that. He's only sorry he's caught. So that type of, oh, I'm sorry, I'm repented, that does not purify. That will not save. So Mahaprabhu showed very serious Vaishnava aparadha. But his reaction was disease. That seems to be the main focus. He got in contact with leprosy. There is another example which Mahaprabhu showed, which we should be more interested in, you see, because as a devotee we have learned, oh, it is health or it is whatever it is. Basically, it's all the same. It's not the sole interest of any devotee just to be healthy. In fact, we've all experienced in a moment of unhealth where we were really driven towards Kṛṣṇa, when we thought it was the last moment, or just had to live for some months or even a couple years in a depleted health condition. We were taken to more shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. So ultimately, for a devotee, even poor health is not a bad thing. At least it is not the worst thing. So what is the worst thing then for a devotee? The worst dreaded nightmare of a devotee? Banishment. Yeah. Banishment from the assembly of the Vaishnavas. That is the worst of the worst. If even somewhere in the assembly of Vaishnavas we can find a place where we are accepted, then our soul is safe. But somehow or another, if we are pushed out from their company, then we face almost non-existence. The soul can never cease to exist, but the closest to non-existence it gets is when it has no connection with divinity. And the divinity means the Vaishnavas. So, also it is said that if we cannot achieve the goal, you see, the ultimate goal of life, prema pumartha mahan, if we cannot achieve love of God, if something stands in our way to block that, then it doesn't matter how much knowledge we've got, it doesn't matter how many followers we have, it doesn't matter how much wealth we have, it doesn't matter how learned we are, how much tapasya, how perfectly we executed any particular part or all of varnashram. If we didn't get the goal, what's the use? You see? If you stand in the queue for 5 days to get a ticket to a concert, in the end you don't get the ticket, what's the use of 5 days in a queue? It just doesn't mean anything. Without achieving the goal, then everything becomes, again, zero, lost. So, prema pumartha mahan, love of God is the ultimate goal, the be-all and the end-all of our existence. Pure love, divine love. So there is one incident where in the house of Srivas Pandit, that is the, what do we call that? Srivasanga, what is called Srivasanga. And the evening pastimes, they call them nocturnal. Nocturnal means evening. The evening pastimes going up till 1, sometimes 2 in the morning. The kirtan. It is said that the center of Krishna Lila, of Chaitanya Lila, is this house of Srivas Pandit. This is the house. When Mahaprabhu is there in his own home, and Vishnu Priya is there. And these are the pastimes of Lakshmi Narayan. But in the kirtan at Srivasangam, then the Vṛndāvana, the essence, the sweetest taste of the Vṛndāvana pastimes are manifested through what? Through the holy name. Mahaprabhu shows some Vṛndāvana connection with cowherd boys as he plays with his friends at the bank of the river and meets with people and does things through the day. But the intense essence of his Vṛndāvana experience, because it is said, Chaitanya Lila and Vṛndāvana Lila, they are parallel, they are non-different, you see. But it appears so different. He's not dancing with gopis until he enters kirtan. The kirtan becomes the rasa lila, the ras kirtan of Mahaprabhu. So it is that place where the Vṛndāvana, the essence of the Vṛndāvana, it comes out. In Vṛndāvana we think that everything is Vraja-bhāva, because everything is in Braj. But everything is in Kṛṣṇa, and Vasudeva is also in Kṛṣṇa. Vasudeva means expansion of Kṛṣṇa. After Balaram, Vasudeva expansion comes after Balaram. When Kṛṣṇa kills the demon, that's Vasudeva. The Kṛṣṇa that dances with gopis never kills demons. And just consider, why should he give up Radharani to kill the demon? It's quite reasonable. Why should he give up the highest taste of ras, service, and divine love to go kill a demon? Actually, there are no demons to kill there. He has to come here to this world. Only Vasudeva kills the demons. Kṛṣṇa never leaves the sweet exchange of ras with his pure devotees. Not even to go crack a demon, kill a demon. To do that, he sends his expansion known as Vasudeva. So where is that Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahiyana? Where is that eternal Mahaprabhu who is actually the divine form of the merger of Radha and Krishna? Is that the Mahaprabhu who's in relaxed mood with Lakshmi in Gaur Leela? When Mahaprabhu is in that relaxed mood, that is Narayan. Gaur Narayan. He's called Gaur Narayan. But in the kirtan, then it comes. Then the Mahaprabhu that is the combined form of Radha Krishna, then that is concentrated there. So, and there the Vṛndāvana pastimes are experienced through the holy name. And what? Are they all gathered for japa for the evening? Japa is so important. Here in sadhana bhakti, it is so important. But there, no time for japa. Only sankirtan is going on. The holy name. Japa, the beads, that has a practical function in sadhana bhakti, because we can't always stay in sankirtan. They're just things to do, and inevitably we even end up alone. It is a part of sadhana bhakti, chanting rounds. But in the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord, the highest platform of kirtan, of the holy name, is in kirtan. Now don't anybody please go away and misquote me that Maharaj said japa wasn't important. As Prabhupada told our god sister Jadharani, she painted this cover for a book once. What was it? It was Easy Journey to Other Planets. And she showed the devotee leaving the universe. He was coming like a half out of the universe, and he was entering into the spiritual world, and he had his beads in his hand. They were just trickled down in his hand. And you know how they always used to show the paintings to Prabhupada. When that was shown him, he said, yes, it is by the beads that we go. So the beads hold a very super important place for us, means the japa. The corresponding form of Vishnu that they worship, be it Narasingha, be it Narayan, or Lakshmi Narayan, be it Ramachandra. Like this, the Lord actually exhibits many forms of incarnations. He's sitting on a dais, and his devotees come. There's some chambers, inner, and on the inner room, he is there, and his devotees are coming. And he's showing the different avatars. They're all Gora Avatara, Sava Avatar. All the avatars are in one avatar. They're all present. Somebody says, I want to worship Vamana, Varaha. Well, I don't know why you would want to worship Kurma and Matsya, but if you did, that is all there in Mahaprabhu. He is Kurma, he is Matsya, he is Narasingha, he is Varaha, he is Trivikram. He is all the incarnations. He is Kṛṣṇa, he is Balaram, and he is more also. He is even more than that. Because all those avatars are Vaikuntha. He is even above Vaikuntha. So that Mahaprakash is called his. He's showing all the great expansions to his devotees. And everyone, in the course of the evening, almost without exception, everyone is absorbed, everyone is caught up, everyone is taken in and is benedicted with divine love of God. Prema. But it came to note that a few devotees weren't being called. And then someone noticed, but Mother Sachi hasn't been called. Mother Sachi has not been called. Please call Mother Sachi and bestow divine love upon Mother Sachi. And Mahaprabhu said, it cannot be, because she is an offender. And everybody was besides himself. How is it possible? Mother Sachi. One side, Mother Yasoda. She is Mother Yasoda. In this world, Mother Sachi. How is it possible? So, we never think, we know. All the devotees were right. It's not possible. But a Leela is going to be shown, and that Leela has some instruction in it, some value for us, you see. She is never an offender, could never be an offender. But Mahaprabhu is taking the opportunity of his Leela to show, you see, what may restrict us from receiving love of Kṛṣṇa. Even if Kṛṣṇa was our son. So that gets a little complicated, and it's not possible, but offense. Do you follow up to this point, what I'm talking about? So, then they ask, what is her offense? And he says, she has thought illy, she has thought bad things about Advaita Ācārya. She has thought badly about Advaita Ācārya. So nowadays, there's a little controversy going around that Advaita Ācārya can't give Vraja-bhāva. If I were you, I would just drop the conversation. Because if you make even a mental mar against Advaita Ācārya, you will not ever get Vraja-bhāva. He is not the deliverer of the final package. But even a mental thought against him will leave us outside the circle of Vraja-bhāva forever. And Mahaprabhu is showing that here. Advaita Ācārya brought Mahaprabhu to this world. It's true he's Sadashiva Mahavishnu, and his plane of total authority only goes to the Viraja in Vaikuntha. It doesn't go his total plane of authority. But an ill thought against him will restrict one from prema and Vraja-bhāva forever. So there's such a thing as being over-intelligent about rasa and just trying to cut every hair and find the finest, highest. Because it's so subtle, you cannot cut it with your intelligence. And if you make a mistake, it will be held against you. So better safe than sorry is the motto. Accept what our acharyas have given us. Accept what Prabhupada has given us in our movement. And we do not split hairs about who's going to give us Vraja-bhāva. We are told a zillion times over, give your life in service to the pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa, and that will be the gift in exchange. So, in this incident, he told it is Advaita Ācārya. She has thought ill. And what happened was, actually, she had thought ill, because what happened was, Advaita Ācārya used to come to her home when Jagannath Mishra and their Vishvarup used to get attraction to Advaita Ācārya, and Advaita Ācārya would speak to him about the goal of life. Mother Sachi thought the result of this is he went away and took sannyas. Advaita Ācārya, he is the cause of my losing my son. And then she thought, he comes to see Mahaprabhu also. I mean, he comes to see Nimai. And the same thing is going to happen. He's going to spoil everything. These were her thoughts. Motherly affection for her son. Fearing that this great Pandit, the Mahapandit, Advaita Ācārya, what's going on? Extraordinary river. said that what is it? Oh, he will spoil my son and he may go away. So she was always having these suspicious thoughts about him. And this was her aparad to Advaita Ācārya. Only that level of thought. Only that level of ill thought, you see. Then we might look and, oh my God, what level of ill thought I have had towards a great Vaishnava. And then we may bang our heads with sticks. Huh? Anyway, all is not lost. Huh? So, Advaita Ācārya, he was, actually at that moment he wasn't there. Don't ask me why he wasn't there. It was, I guess, divine arrangement. He was not at Srivasangam, but he was at his home. Then the devotee said, well, how Mother Sachi can be free from this offense? Then he told, she has to fall at the feet and take the foot dust of Advaita Ācārya and beg forgiveness. So then the devotees, they told, someone call Advaita Ācārya immediately, should come here. So Advaita Ācārya was called. They went to Advaita Ācārya's home and they called. And they told the situation, and immediately Advaita Ācārya said, no, there is no, Mother Sachi has never made offense. Mother Sachi is the mother of the universe. She is worshipable by all of us. He started with that manner, with that fashion. And no, you have to come. Mahaprabhu has kept her outside. She will not get the gift of divine love unless she falls at your feet. No, it is not possible that Mother Sachi will touch my feet. And this kind of drama was going as they were dragging Advaita Ācārya there, you see. And he could not allow such a thing to happen. When he entered the place where the devotees are assembled, Mahaprabhu was there, then Advaita Ācārya fell in a faint, and he fainted in ecstatic love of God. Himself, he fainted on the floor. And it was, at this point, everybody knew he's not going to allow Mother Sachi to touch his feet. Then Mahaprabhu said, he has fainted. He has no choice. He told Mother Sachi, bow to his feet and take the foot dust of his feet. And then Mother Sachi offered obeisances to Advaita Ācārya's feet and took the foot dust on her head. And then the Sankirtan went on. So that's a pastime. They cannot be out from love of God. Mother Sachi is Mother Yasoda. And Mother Yasoda cannot commit an offense to Mahavishnu. These things are not possible. Sometimes Prahlāda is praised as being greater than Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is an expansion in Vaikuntha of the queens at Dwarka. The queens at Dwarka are expansion of the gopis, and those gopis they are expansions of Radharani. So it comes down, and sometimes Prahlāda is said to be greater than Lakshmi. And the reason is that Lakshmi can never fall down. The internal potency of the Supreme Lord, Swarup Shakti, Hladini Shakti, even as Lakshmi Devi, can never be influenced by Maya, can never be converted by Maya. It is impossible that Kṛṣṇa will be covered by Maya, he will be converted by Maya. Hladini Shakti also cannot be covered by Maya. It is not possible for Lord Balaram to fall down or Lakshmi Devi to fall down. But a jiva can be tested, and a jiva has the capacity to mix with the what's it called? Coerce? Coerce. It means to reciprocate with the material energy. You cannot test Lakshmi. Radharani cannot be tested. The gopis cannot be tested. Those that are actually expansions of Radharani. But a jiva can be tested because a marginal jiva has the capacity to reciprocate with Maya. But such capacity does not exist in Kṛṣṇa, and it does not exist in the Hladini Shakti. So sometimes because of Prahlāda, he passes many tests, which theoretically he could fail. he could fail. He could fail those tests. So in that way, he is considered greater. But actually, Prahlāda never considers himself greater than Lakshmi. So there are, anyway, I don't know how I got to that point. It's just something that came up. But there are many planes of the absolute truth. And in all of these places, we find the Lord is accompanied by his devotees. And they have their super qualities. They have their super characteristics. And absolutely none of them are to be neglected. None of them are to be neglected. Sometimes sometimes it is taken, and I have seen, that no other interest. We will shun all other interest, except the interest in Vṛndāvana. And then we will find that the devotees, they even want to shun all other interest, even in Vṛndāvana, except gopī-rasa. But actually, such persons have not even rejected false ego. They have not even disassociated with false ego. Pratishta, jnana, so many things lower in this world. They have not disassociated with eating and sleeping. But they think they can disassociate themselves from Prahlāda, disassociate themselves from the Śrīngadeva, disassociate themselves from Sakhya-rasa, Vatsalya-rasa, and only be interested in Madhurya-rasa. There is such a plane, but it is not achieved by such types of disassociation and renunciation. It becomes a natural inclination as the devotee rises in that lift towards the eternal plane of service. In Goloka, he leaves many planes behind, naturally. And I'm telling you, there are not heaps of people in that lift at a time. It is not just something that's done in one big group and everybody goes up at once. It is so rare. And even those who have it, most of the time, never show it. It is the most secret of all secrets. Where it is shown, show, that is the most glaring and obvious defect that it's not even there at all. It hides itself. It's so hidden the Vedas don't even know about it. And it came down, yes, people say, but Mahāprabhu brought it down. What did he bring down? To everybody he brought down Sankirtan and the standard of pure devotion, which begins by understanding what is Prahlāda Maharaj. Mahāprabhu accepted Prahlāda Maharaj as a pure Vaishnava. So right there we should rivet ourselves. What is this? Everything before that Mahāprabhu is rejected when Ramananda Roy is suggesting so many things for perfection. But when it comes to the stage of surrender and depending on the Supreme Lord, Mahāprabhu said yes. Then he said yes. Marks the beginning of pure devotion. We should see what that is, how to begin. What is pure devotion? Prabhupada and other great devotees, and even Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj, his favorite section of the Bhāgavatam was Prahlāda Maharaj Leela. Gaura Das Babaji. Do you know who he is? Just for the sake of knowing. He is not Rati. No. Yeah, Guna. Guna Manjari. Oh, she likes to hear about Prahlāda Maharaj. Why? Because it is the sweet foundation of pure devotion. Not that he only wants to hear about gopis. He wants to hear about pure devotion, the foundation, the essence, surrender to Kṛṣṇa. So, and the higher it is, it hides itself away. So Mahāprabhu brought Sankirtan, he brought the holy name, he brought pure devotion, he brought so many things. The Goswamis came and revealed so many temples, so many deities came out from the earth. They were hidden for centuries. They came back. The temples were built. Service was going on. Cooking was going on. Great devotees. Rupa Goswami himself was in the kitchen cooking for the deities. And of course, when more devotees, he was older, he didn't do that. Many great devotees. They were cooking, they were dressing, they were doing all these things, serving the deities. And now we are told deity worship is only some lower thing. They themselves were worshiping the deities. They themselves helped orchestrate the building of temples and doing these things. But Gambhīra was hidden. Gambhīra is a room in which Mahaprabhu lived in Jagannath Puri. Gambhīra. You know this room? You know the name Gambhīra. You know what Gambhīra means? The name Gambhīra means deeply mystical and mysterious. What went on inside that room was not seen by anybody except two people, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai. They are the only ones to enter that room. When Mahaprabhu was in the mood and entering the plane of consciousness, which brought the name Gambhīra. It's not that it was called Gambhīra. Somebody shows up in Puri and goes, "Where does Mahaprabhu live?" And they said, "Oh, he lives at Gambhīra." No, it became known as Gambhīra late in Mahaprabhu's life, during his last 12 years of his presence, where he disconnected, disassociated. I mean, in the sense that he did not go out every day and mix with the devotees. He remained for 12 years, 24 hours a day, in an intensely lovesick mood. And it was like the waves of an ocean, sometimes down and sometimes so high that, as I said the other day, when he caught the glimpse of Kṛṣṇa in front of him, he walked right through stone walls. And we think we have connected to Kṛṣṇa Lila because we can tell some Kṛṣṇa stories. We are sadly mistaken. That place, Gambhīra, is where the highest love was experienced. The emotions of Radharani were found in him there to the most unbelievable and intense degree. Mahabhav. Mahabhav cannot come to you in 100s of billions of lifetimes. But as when a sprinkler is going like this, throwing, some drop may land on you. But you will not catch the full force of Mahabhav. There are only two people who know really what is Mahabhav, who experience Mahabhav. That is Radharani and that is Mahaprabhu. Lalita and Vishaka, they get some heavy splash from Mahabhav. But we're not their quality of existence. Basically, the jiva couldn't even sustain it, even a heavy splash of it. It's not possible. Lalita and Vishaka, they're expansions of Radharani. They're the first two expansions. They're super Hladini Shaktis. They can experience very much. But the Tatastha Jivas, they're very, very limited. They cannot take the full brunt of it. They have to take a small, small drop of it that is passed down to them. Many have to have touched that and brought it. And that's all. And that is inconceivable. But what does something happen in your mind? Why you want to experience the same pleasure as the Lord himself? It is his pleasure. You are not for pleasure. He is the enjoyer of Mahabhav. She is the enjoyer of Mahabhav. He is the enjoyer of Ras. You're not the enjoyer of Ras. Go to the kitchen and clean pots. No, I want to hear about Ras. That's the proof you are not fit for Ras. Happily go there and serve. And when we are fit, then we will be taken into a proximity of divine Leela, where we will be most accommodated, we will feel most comfortable, and we will not be in the danger to make any offense. There are paintings of mañjaris. Everyone knows the idea nowadays, what is a mañjari? There are paintings floating around the world for everyone's meditation about mañjaris. But they are vastly mistaken. And, and I'll try to say it in a humble way. But I have heard from sources far more acquainted with that plane than those sources that are canvassing around the world. And those mañjaris are not that old. They are very, very young. 6 and 7 years old in our mental imagination. They are not little girls 16, 17, 18 years old. That's Shakis. And the whole point of a mañjari is they are innocent. They don't know anything about love. And therefore, sometimes they can serve Radha and Kṛṣṇa in love pastimes, and they don't know anything. They just go and perform some little service. They don't know anything. And thus, they don't create any moment of embarrassment, or it is said, embarrassment for Radha and Kṛṣṇa. Be careful you don't commit a moment of embarrassment for the divine couple. Be careful what you say about them, even if you think you know something about them. Because it will be certainly jaded with your mundane experience. We know we are not this body, and we deal with it from before we wake up till after we go to sleep. We are sitting, moving the leg, talking, eating, moving, everything. We are 99.9999% of the time just engaged in body. And we stop chanting because we are tired. And then we think we can go to a gathering and get Vraja-bhāva. Like it says, Srila Puri said, actually we are satisfied with a lollipop. I don't know how he knew what a lollipop is. But he said people are clamoring for this Vraja-bhāva, but all they're getting is a lollipop. A sucker. They're not getting it. It is not like that. Actually, once I heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj say, they said about Leela, and he laughed and he said, that is a dreamy thing in this world. It is only a dreamy thing. It is for the next life. It is for beyond this world. There lies the Leela. Here has come the name, the holy name of Kṛṣṇa has come. This is the great wealth. And within that, we will have some prospect of what lies ahead. But if we think we can run ahead, that is a mistake. We will stumble and fall. There is a verse, and I'm quite poor at quoting verses, but it is there in some of our books. It is called the death blow to the Sahajiyas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called it the death blow to the Sahajiyas. It is in Gaudiya Kantahara, and it is in some of our current books. And it outlines the stages of development, which must be crossed before one enters Vṛndāvana. All stages of lower consciousness must be crossed. And then one is fit to enter Goloka Vṛndāvana. And it is called the death blow because it is spoken by Mahāprabhu. One must cross all these stages first, then go. In a word, first deserve, then desire. First qualify yourself, then we can go there. And why the death blow? Because the Sahajiyas, they don't ever want to qualify. Just want the sweet taste, you see. But all that is sweet is not nectar. They want the sweet taste, but they don't want to qualify for that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had two sayings. One is Pakkur Chuliwala. It means they are pond thieves. But you cannot steal a pond. You cannot run away with a pond, you see. But they are trying to steal a pond. You can only become the rightful owner of a pond. You cannot steal a man's pond, right? Pakkur Chuliwala. They are pond thieves. But pond thieves can never take away the pond, you see. Only the rightful owner. He has the pond. How to become rightful owner. That should be our plane of inquisitive. How to be rightful owner. How to please the Supreme Lord. Here, one of thousands of references. One must be in connection with the pure Vaishnavas, and one must serve them. And that begins with our Guru, service to our Guru. That may extend to service of the Vaishnavas. We would hope that it would. His extensions, his disciples are also Vaishnavas. No. Prabhupada doesn't have any pure devotees. No. Nothing. He has no mercy. His teaching wasn't powerful. Nothing is there. Only he was there. Now something else has come. Then you see, if he couldn't make even one devotee, then in the end he would turn a stone into a devotee. This is the determination, you see. It cannot be. It cannot be. At least one. At least one. But at least one, you think about it. Is that enough? In one sense it is said yes. If a guru can have even one disciple who becomes a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa. But we saw in Prabhupada that wasn't enough. He wanted a movement of pure devotion. Not just one person who is pure devotee. Someone may say, this is a very clean house. Isn't it? This ashram is very clean. Does that mean there's nothing in here that we could call dirt? You can look at Kṛṣṇa and finally go, oh, dirt. He's a dacoit. People do that. They find fault even in God, the Supreme Pure, because they don't know what is pure. They don't know what is clean. Prabhupada's father, it is written, he is a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa. Everyone has read it, right? Gaur Mohan De. Right? But then we have read so many stories. He used to give hookah in his home. Hookah, pipe, hookah. He used to give hookah. He used to give ganja to the babas in Kaliagat. Yeah. If Yamunā kept a hookah here, and when the babas came through from India, she gave hookah, there'd be a plot. Psh, get her out of here, This is impure. What to speak of is she gave ganja to somebody, you see. That would be your walking papers, you see. Prabhupada's father did that. So how he is pure devotee? What is a pure devotee? Srila Prabhupada himself, in his old age, he took snuff. Those of any of Prabhupada's disciples that were close to him knows that. I have that last snuff box from. It's bought in England. It has some prasadam in it also. I tried it one day. It's horrible. This is the kind of prasad we don't take. But so then there was some people say that's a lie. He never had that because he was pure. One devotee, Krishna Balaram Swami, some of you know him, the Indian one who was born in Vṛndāvana. He says that's a lie. Prabhupada never took snuff. I went to the store and bought it for him. What's he talking about? He said, my guru is pure. Well, what's your estimation of purity? According to that one estimation of purity, it is taken as medicine, it is snuff. Everybody shouts, oh, Ayurveda, Ayurveda. When you go for Ayurvedic treatment, are you ready for a little lamb and mutton chaivan praj? A little mutton fat? How about a little peacock blood? This is also in Ayurveda. Tulsi ground up and administered to you. You take ground up Tulsi, mutton, Ayurvedic. No, we don't accept everything in Ayurveda. And everything that appears impure, we don't accept that as an impurity. It's like Srila Prabhupada told one of his disciples who had to eat eggs. It was a lady. She said, and she wrote and said, if I don't eat eggs, I'm going to die. According to what the doctors tell me. What should I do? And Srila Prabhupada wrote back and said, eating eggs is not sinful. It is abominable. Then he said, so if you have to take, you may take as medicine, but not as food. And there were so many instances. So what is the line of sinful? What is the line of divinity? It is just not something that is black and white. We are shown some black and white, but that also becomes gray. It's like there's a very fine line on a piece of paper. You draw it, right? Everybody says, is it clear? It's clear. Get a magnifying glass and look at it. It's not clear. Get a microscope and it disappears. What line? There is no line there. But there are only some guidelines, you see. And coming to the plane of purity, there is no such thing as impurity. Everything becomes pure. But to set example for the world, then the pure devotees, they follow many rules and regulations which will be of benefit in helping the living entities to come out from the ignorance of material existence, you see, and come into the plane of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So we should concern ourselves with purity and qualification and how to enter. And here the key is given by the method of service. We should not be inattentive. We should not be inattentive. There is what is, even a child can say, Krishna is God and love of God is the goal of life. Even a child can say that. But you have your practical experience. You raise them with this in their ear. Krishna is God, love of God. And at a time, you begin to wonder if any of it's stuck, you see. So although we don't necessarily always, we don't have to try so externally for that higher platform, we should not be ignorant about it either. We should not be ignorant about it. So nowadays, it's as though, what is a higher platform? Vraja-bhāva, mañjarī-bhāva, mañjarī-rasa. It's come to the point some people, they don't like to say anymore Śrīmati Radharani. They don't like to say Śrīmati Radharani. They only like to say Radhika. You see, it's just a trend, a swooping trend. The name Radhika has always been there. But Prabhupada spoke most respectfully about Radharani, Śrīmati Radharani. Radharani. Rani means queen, Radha. Radharani. Nowadays, a person's name may not be good enough if it's not rasic enough, you see. It's not rasic enough. So many trendy things are there. Everything has to be so rasic, so rasic. And it is like the pond thief. It is not really their domain. It cannot be achieved in that way. Was the pond thief the verse? No, the pond thief was a quote by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The verse is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita quoted by Mahāprabhu. I can show you after or later. It's where it is in the books, our books. That's my weakness, verses.
What's the English idea?
Of what?
The verse.
Translation.
That one has to cross all levels of lower consciousness, including Brahmaloka, the Viraja, and Vaikuntha, Dwarka. And then one will come to the stage of Vṛndāvana consciousness. One cannot jump over any stage. There must be a developmental process of our consciousness. We cannot just jump to that level and then think that all the other levels will just be brought there. No. We have to go step by step. You cannot jump to the top of the Empire State Building. You only have one choice. You go up step by step. Someone can say, but you could be flown in from the top. I wouldn't want to try that. Have you ever been up there? The landing deck is only 8 foot wide and there's a concrete wall next to it. I don't think the helicopter would get in there. And anyway, those are just foolish arguments, you see. That's all foolish arguments. Why don't you just enter the elevator and go up? You want to go there. Why risk your life by flying in? Plus it costs more. One's free. The other ones may cost you your life. It's a foolish thing. I heard somebody said recently, the Rasikas said, whose japa is higher? Rupa Goswami or Haridas Thakur? I feel pretty much assured either Mahaprabhu would laugh or slap your face for that question. In any case, we can definitely say, who do you think you are? Mahaprabhu wept at the disappearance of Haridas Thakur. Now, why they say that is Haridas Thakur is a Shantaras Bhakta. He's also considered Brahma. Things like that. Prahlāda and Brahma, I think. Prahlāda and Brahma. Shantaras. Govardhan Hill is also a Shantaras Bhakta. Krishna's flute is also a Shantaras Bhakta. What do you think Shantaras is? Some kind of lower conception? The gopis are praying for the mercy of Krishna's flute. The gopis are praying for the mercy of a Shantaras Bhakta. What is Shantaras? Better yet, what's a Bhakta? We call the guy off the street a Bhakta. What's a Bhakta? We're simply trying to become Bhaktas. What is a Bhakta? We should look deeper into things. And then, of course, because Rupa Goswami is Rupa Mañjarī, Mañjārīs are gopis, and so forth, it goes like this. But they have, I was saying, don't try to think about this plane. You'll make mistake there, and that's a mistake that's being made. These people are thinking that Mañjārīs are like 16-year-old girls, and they go around with their paintings of their Mañjārīs and things like that, and they're wrong. They are much younger in their age. I heard this personally from Śrīla Sridhar Maharaj, who once turned around and said, I am standing in the courtyard of Rupa Manjari. I'm simply trying to relate my experience to you. And you know what? In the 1,000 hours of talk with him, he only ever told a couple little, kind of like nice things, but still kind of vague things about the actual leelas and the pastimes. And they were always only those things which showed a big, valuable philosophical purport, and not anything that actually like disclosed something of intimate pastimes. And he said, they are of a very tender age. He indicated something like 6, 7, what we would imagine in our mind, 6 or 7. So if you're trying to meditate in that plane by this external process of paintings and all these things, what happens when you make a mistake there? That's a serious mistake. You can flunk the exam with that mistake. If you mistake and think there are 4 modes of nature and not 3, you're okay. If you're even mistaken about the fall of the jiva, that ain't the end of it, you know. If you're mistaken how many avatars there were, you'll get it right in time. That's not an offense. But when you make a mistake about that highest world, it's not just a knowledge mistake, it becomes an offense. It's an aparad. Why do you want to go there and intrude into the Lord's private domain when you have not even been invited and you have no qualification? So, no, you can ask.
You're saying that it's not a knowledge mistake, it's an aparad. Just sort of flashed when you said that the conception's all wrong. So it's like a whole consciousness that's off.
Yes, because...
So then that must be really closely connected with aparad. That's what aparad is, isn't it? That your consciousness is
Well,
in the wrong spot.
yes, it's the wrong spot, but then that's a conscious world, and there are people there. And your consciousness is off, right? Or let's say, let me put it better. My consciousness is off, and I go there in that conscious world, which is just all consciousness. So that's like, coming in with a thorn and poking everybody. My consciousness isn't fit to be there, so I'm poking everybody. And that becomes an offense. You're creating a disturbance there. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it, that an unqualified person opens the Govinda Lilamrita, which can now just be bought by anybody in a bookstore Loi Bazaar by at least 2 different authors. You can get it from the heartlands of the Sahajiyas, or you can get it from your local parampara. But at any rate, he took it that anybody who opened that book and read it was making an aparad. Because his realization of Govinda Lilamrita was that it was equal to that of its author, Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura, non-different than the Leela of Kṛṣṇa. And only a most qualified person should open that. Once Srila Maharaj told the devotees, you can print 1 copy of Vilap Kusha Manjali, 1 copy of Govinda Lilamrita. You can spend any amount, and you can bind it in the most gorgeous thing imaginable. But it's not for reading, and then you can worship that and keep that on your altar. That is the inner domain of the Lord's pastimes. And you know what? The day you're qualified for that, you could write it without ever opening the book. So which way do you want to know it from? Do you just want to know it from the plane of 25 half-dead brain cells and feeling some wimpy sentiment in your heart about it? Or do you actually want to realize that by the grace of the Supreme Lord and be taken into that plane? It's like you'll find in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada has written several places, and he mentions that they know. He's talking about Kaviraj Goswamis, Sanatana, particularly the 6 Goswamis. They know because they came from that place. Therefore, you can hear from them. They know. But now, you have to have adhikari for hearing from them on that level. But people don't want the adhikari. And the adhikari, bare bottom adhikari, actually is an artha-nivritti. One has to be established in the stage of anartha-nivritti. One has to have purified his heart of gross anarthas and misconceptions. That's the most minimal qualification. And even then, it doesn't mean now you've got the ticket, you can simply jump. Because even great Paramahansas don't jump there. So it's a science of the realization. It's either getting the shadow, it's like the moon. You want to go to the moon, or to outer space, that gentleman paid $22 million. Well, if you can't afford it, here's a bucket of water. And you look in the bucket of water and you got your little moon. So, some people are satisfied with the bucket of water, the moon, the lollipop. That type of sweetness. And it is rare to find one who is actually prepared to pay the price. We all like to go to Vṛndāvana, but Vṛndāvana is a town filled with misconception at every doorway. Thousands and thousands of people filled with misconception. It was better 50 years ago than it is now. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta went there and he came back and beat his forehead and said, I could not find a Vaishnava in Braj. So what was his conception of a Vaishnava? A very high thing. What's our conception of a Vaishnava? Any rickshawwala with neck beads, shopkeeper, Nimbupani shopwala, all these. This is our conception of a Vaishnava. Or even our conception of a Brajabasi. But higher devotees have a higher conception, so we will do better for ourselves to follow the higher devotees, the higher conception. Don't risk it. Make sure. There's one or two other things that I keep wanting to say, but I don't get around to that. So, are there any other questions? Yes.
I understand that we should take shelter of the devotees for our devotional life. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. That is a reference. It is made by Jiva Goswami in maybe more than one place, but one place I'm acquainted with, a little bit acquainted with. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the stage of bhava. Bhava. Bhava is just a little below prema. That is also at the stage where one's siddha deha becomes known. One's eternal form in divine service becomes known to the sadhak. He's now a siddha. not a sadhak, not just a practicer, he's a perfected. At the stage of bhava, Siddha Deha is revealed. Srila Prabhupada just write a little bit about Siddha Deha. Because again, it is a topic that you can learn all the vocabulary of it, but that's not how to get there. But anyway, something is said of it. It comes at the stage of bhava, just before prema, and it is a conscious awareness of one's eternal swarup, Siddha Deha. At that time, one's internal, natural, heart's felt inclination will be to follow the service mood of one of the eternal inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. You'll find Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes some places about this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's Rupanuga, he's Kamala Manjari, but you'll find in his highest writings, and rather than just go searching for it, we mentioned it in this book, Parampara book. He is taken into the eternal Leela of Kṛṣṇa. This is in his Siddha Deha. To our vision, he might have just been sitting at home with his beads in his hand, you see. But where he went, we have no way to see where he went. But he wrote where he went. He entered, and he saw, and he was taken, and he was introduced into a group of servitors by Ananga Manjari. Ananga Manjari is the sister of Radharani. So, then he is taken, and he is taken to Rupa Manjari. So, one section says, they have a whole philosophy, that he was not liberated. He was not a liberated soul, because he himself is admitting that he achieved perfection, you see. And we argue the other side and say it is not so. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a liberated soul. He descends from that world. He is written in experience so that the higher and more advanced devotees, that explanation, that description, that will be very nourishing for them. Rather, he is describing a living entity who is coming from this world by the grace of Mahāprabhu and the Vaishnavas and entering into eternal Leela with Kṛṣṇa. But we say, well, he mentioned Ananga Manjari because very, very deeply Kamala Manjari, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, very much likes the mood of service of Radharani's sister. So he takes as his role model, so to speak. Well, how would you say it? Somebody said it a minute ago. Association with Brajabasis or something? Role model of a Brajabasi. Take the instruction of a Brajabasi. That's the Brajabasi, Ananga Manjari, right? But here, in our plane, you can't do that because it's beyond your reach. But you can take the mood of bhajan, of those personalities when they came down in this world as 6 Goswamis, as parampara, like that. So I follow Brajabasi. The Brajabasi I follow 3 Brajabasis. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just to keep it simple, I follow Prabhupada. That's my Brajabasi. That's the Brajabasi I follow. He told Vṛndāvana is my home. Hey, I got connection with somebody from the homelands, the heartlands of Kṛṣṇa Leela. That's my connection. Then maybe after 10 million more lifetimes, and I have some qualification, then I may understand something higher about what's a Brajabasi. But Brajabasi first means our guru. Some Brajabasis don't live in Vṛndāvana, Vṛndāvana town, as it is. Some people who live in Vṛndāvana town aren't Brajabasis at all. They're garbage. They're murderers and dacoits. And if Bhaktivinoda Thakur was here, you'd find out in a jiffy what he thought about those Brajabasis. He'd bring the British military in there and clean house and sweep streets and lock people up, is what he would do with he put a Vrajabhasi in a Vrajabhasi jail. Feed him Vrajabhasi prison prasadam. Yeah, no. So much. Hey, Vrajabhasi McDonald's, Vrajabhasi slaughterhouse. Huh? Still, we go to Vṛndāvana, and we are not the people to change that place. If you are born there, you live there, it is your place like that, then yeah, you can get involved. I learned the hard way. Don't get involved. Just go and try to see beyond all that. See the deities. See the Yamunā. Nowadays, I don't go to Yamunā. I haven't been to Yamunā in 7 or 8 years. I knew Yamunā River when I could drink Yamunā by the handful. You do that now, you die. We'll have you in the hospital within an hour. I saw Yamunā one day when thousands of fish were dead, when the poisons came down from the leather tanneries upstream and all these things. I got there before that. I drank Yamunā water like this, at least half a gallon. In the old days, you could see it was clean, it was pure. It got so bad at a time, I stopped myself doing the Ekadasi Parikram in Vṛndāvana. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I just couldn't tolerate it. I couldn't tolerate just seeing it. In those days, I just decided I'll stay home and chant more rounds, and in my little brain, you can meditate about Govardhan Hill and these things that are there, and you've been there, and you can be chanting japa and remembering going on parikram and things like that. Don't try to remember yourself going into eternal Leela. It ain't going to happen. You can fancily think of things, but like I said, you'll be thinking wrong about so many of these things. It is not a thing. The mind is one of the 8 material elements. The Swarup Siddhi is not one of the 8 material elements. And it comes down, it Krishnizes every atom of our existence. And spiritualizes mind, intelligence, and even this miserable material body made of bones and things. It becomes Krishnized. So all we have to do is engage ourselves in service, see what is at hand. What is at hand is so profound, even the Chaitanya Charitamrita has portions that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has indicated are not for discussion. They are too intimate and too high. Serve, you may read them even in a group of devotees, but it is not open for chit-chat and discussing and trying to pry oneself into that world. It is not for that. That's where the aparadha is committed. So we are given a process that is both effective and safe. But many people don't want that process. They want something quickly. They want to relive the old days. I don't want to relive the old days myself. The days ahead are the sweetest ones yet to come. Of course, I would pay anything for, a moment with Srila Prabhupada, where I could act properly, serve properly, or something like that. But then that will be rewarded one fine day in the future, and in a way which isn't like going back to Henry Street or going back to 26 Second Avenue. There was a certain sweetness, beauty, and charm in all of that. But most everybody was in ignorance. Do you want to go back to ignorance and just where your existence is just like a tolerating process for Srila Prabhupada, you see? Again, where he's in the queue to get in the bathroom or something? Or, you found it. Yeah. What did you find?
The verse about Viraj.
Mahaprabhu has said, this is Madhya Lila, chapter 19, verses 153 and 154. The translation from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The creeper of devotion is born and grows to pierce the wall of the universe. It crosses the Viraja river and the Brahman plain and reaches to the Vaikuntha plain. Then it grows further up to Goloka Vṛndāvana, finally reaching to embrace the wish-yielding tree of Krishna's lotus feet. Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami. In this way, the creeper will go from the seed, Bhakti Lata Bij. It will go all the way to embrace the wish-yielding tree of Krishna's lotus feet, and there experience the fruits of love of God. It is described as a creeper. It must grow through all these planes. The creeper of devotion is born and grows to pierce the walls of the universe. It has to pass Pur, Bhuva, and Swa, all the planes of material consciousness. And then it has to cross the Viraja and enter Brahman and reaching Vaikuntha. Not just that it goes and, oh, look at those nice planets over there. Nice big palaces, Vaikuntha. There's a conception in Vaikuntha. And Vaikuntha has gradation also. Ayodhya is Vaikuntha. Dwarka is also Vaikuntha. The highest part of Vaikuntha is Ayodhya. So Vaikuntha has to go Vaikuntha. Then it enters Goloka and comes to the lotus feet of Krishna. So in this world, we are to follow and aspire first after our Guru. Then through that, not leaving that is there, but much accommodation comes. We think only one Guru. Why? Because it had such a hard time to even surrender to one Guru. So we think it's impossible. There couldn't be another one. It took so much just to get to here. And then I guess all my love to Prabhupada, I couldn't love anybody else. Why? Because I don't have hardly any love to give. And if I divide it, it's nothing. But love grows. And all of a sudden, well, in different situations, things are revealed. But sure, I can tell you, keeping Prabhupada in his, not in his place above our heads, then one may also find an aspiration coming from the life of the Goswamis in some particular plane like this. Prabhupada has written, you must read that little book in Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. And it is said in many places by Jiva Goswami, and he's one of the Goswamis, he's saying the Vraja-bhāsis we are going to deal with is Rup Sanatan. We must take their guidance. They are the Vraja-bhāsis whom we must come under, you see. And they will introduce us into the higher plane of where the Vraja-bhāsis are performing their service to Krishna. I don't think you could get this conversation out of Srila Prabhupada. Do you know why? Because it would become so much a reality. He would become frozen in time and enter. And he wouldn't learn anything about it. So one of the evidences that we're not fit for the higher plane is that we can describe so much detail about it and remain sitting on the chair. If we were actually qualified and enter into the love, I call it the love bite pastimes of Radha and Krishna, nothing would come out of our mouth but foam. That's a proof. It is a proof. And I have seen it in some high devotees they are so protective of this. And sometimes some aspect of it would come out. And this is not a long, drawn-out thing, but some wave of high emotion would just swell up in them while describing some point, some particular point. And the point you saw yesterday in the film of Srila Puri Maharaj, if you could recognize what that is, if you had your book of symptoms, bhavas, sthayi bhavas, you'd have had about 5 of them on the list for sure. But what he was just describing is just there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's just a simple verse, one little verse spoken by Madhavinda Puri. He's just talking about one other little verse. That's all. He's just talking about those things which have been sitting in front of us for our whole life. He's not going on to talk about all these things and Radha's grabbing Krishna and this and this and this. He's not touching any of that. He's just talking about a basic meeting of Radha and Krishna, and their words of exchange, and Madhavinda Puri, just as he left the world trying to reach Vṛndāvana, and his anguish of separation, and he caught that wave. And I'm still praying for the day I can catch that wave and ride that wave. There's one man who walks around and goes, Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham, Sham. He just walks all over the brush. Shama, Sham. Sham, Shama, Shama, Sham. Shama is Radharani, Sham is Kṛṣṇa. Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham. He's made his mantra Shama, Sham. No, that's poetic, isn't it? Kṛṣṇa is Sham and Radharani is Shama. Shama, Sham, Shama, Sham. So he just looked and, oh, here's a neat one. No one's done this. And he goes around. And then he does it long enough. Then he's called Siddha Mahatma. He'll be called Rasik. He'll be called Shama Sham Baba, whatever. Everybody's got their niche, how to make their niche. And another guy's got his spray paint in his stencil. Radhe, Radhe. He's doing Radhe on the trees. And those who are actually greater devotees, they're serving a deity, establishing a temple, arranging for preaching and all these things. And the so-called high devotees, they criticize that work. Oh, they're bringing this Vaikuntha Bhav to Vṛndāvana. Only Vaikuntha, We're only for the Vraj-bhāva. Same criticism to Prabhupada, same criticism to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. Only cutting the jungle. Only cutting the jungle. The Sahajiyas never cut the jungle because they're in the jungle. They never cut down the jungle of misconception because all their followers will have their legs cut off. So they just kind of dance around the sticker bushes, you see. People criticize Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. And we are to follow in their footsteps. There's not a new style coming down from them. It is not like that. There's an old style that is so old, the universe forgot where it came from. It is so old, it is so sure, it is so definite. That's the style we are to be absorbed in. The holy name and service. Always trying to purify our heart and offer ourselves as an instrument of service. And not demanding, no, I only want mañjarī-rasa service. You come into a place and look for the lowest, try for the lowest service. Everybody comes in, they want the zone, you see. There's a new country born and everybody jockeys to get it as their zone. Then after that, who's going to be TP? Temple president. And then all these positions, right? So the higher devotee just enters and looks for the broom closet. Looks for the pot room. Seek the lower service, not the higher service, so-called higher service. Now that question is, if I am ever asked, whose japa is higher, Rupa Goswami's or Haridas Thakur's? You know what my answer will be? You may get this question sooner or later here. The answer is, whose advice is more valuable, Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura or Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura? And ask them, answer my question first, then I'll answer yours. And it's a very binding question for them, actually, because they only follow the advice of Viśvanātha. And they beg the question of Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta. But ontologically, Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta holds a higher position. He's Nayana Mani Manjari. And Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura is a Shaki. So according to their own conception, the Manjaris are in the higher plane. And he's that. So from that side, they're also captured. Then you follow him, Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta. And he emphasizes qualification. And never go and just openly discuss pastimes of Kṛṣṇa with just a mixed jumbo of men, women, and children, people with no background, newcomers, all these things. Never do that. Make it a wonderful Sankirtan festival, centered around the holy name and the Leela of Mahāprabhu, Sankirtan Leela. This is both tasty, sweet, safe, and purifying. And in this world, just as Bhakti Siddhanta and Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura, we see that Srila Prabhupada, other stalwart disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they had access to all of Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura's books. They all know Sanskrit, they all know Bengali, but they preferred the guidance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. How to adjust and deal with the higher world. That is required. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has come down from that plane, from the inner circle of the Lord's eternal pastimes. He is a dual participant member. He has his status in Krishna Lila and in Gaur Lila, and he has come to give a proper adjustment. How to adjust ourselves with the highest plane of truth. Hare Krishna. Go Premanandi, Hare Hare Bo. And that was followed by Prabhupada, that was followed by Śrīla Maharaj, that was followed by Puri Maharaj, that was followed by Madhava Maharaj, that was followed by Keshav Maharaj, that was followed by Saranga Maharaj, Damodar Maharaj, all the Maharajas. Someone asked me the other day, what were the problems? Gaudiya Math had a problem in management, not in philosophy and how to deal with divinity. They were all except one, impeccable in that plane. Their all hands are in a parallel plane. They uphold that with the greatest and highest respect. And to different degrees, they were preaching or doing and so many things. But all of them shared this in common. And no one matched to Prabhupada in his preaching. But as regarding always keeping the highest conceptions high and not dealing with them in a cavaliering spirit, as he did, as he showed, they all showed this same thing also. So it's not even an issue or a debate. It's just a confusion. Is it a debate that you're not the body? If some other people are trying to figure it out, is it even? You'll say, it's not even an issue. It's not even a debate. Oh, it is for them who don't know. But for those who know, it's not even an issue. It's not a debate. When such a firm platform of understanding is present, then there cannot be an issue or a debate. They're simply accepting that firm platform of understanding. And that comes through Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, not through Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. It's a key thing. What does he say about this? Hare Krishna.
In connection with that, there's a Bhagavad Gita that's being presented and I could say pushed with mostly commentary of Viśvanātha Cakravartī. So, from the perspective of what you're saying, is that something that we should do or not?
Well, your Guru Maharaj published that, but in Bengali. If you have the proper line of your faith and shiksha, you may come to that. I have that English one, and I used it in the sense I quoted it in an argument with those people that it is not necessary to hear from a Rasic Acharya. That's not the qualification. Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura himself says the qualification is service and submission to your guru. Even if you feel you're getting nothing, you should remain there, because everything will be forthcoming according to your surrender. Now this presupposes the bona fide spiritual master, obviously. So, yes. However, I also know that the person who translated that shortly thereafter joined the Sahajiyas section also. So I follow this. If I knew Bengali and your Guru Maharaj published that book, I would read it without the slightest hesitation or reserve, because it is being done by someone who I hold at a very high level of consciousness. I mean, once Srila Puri Maharaj was speaking, maybe you were there that time, and he was speaking, and then he stopped, and he was quiet for a moment, and then he said, I was about to say something unauthorized, but my Guru Maharaj stopped me. So what's authorized mean? what does it mean, authorized? And how has Guru Maharaj stopped him? And what is meaning? What did he say about following the footsteps?
He was.
Wait, I'm not talking to you. Ramdas, do you remember what he said about that? About following the footsteps? Okay, then let Maharaj tell. It's a particular thing.
He asked one of his disciples, what does Raga Nuga mean?
Huh.
And that disciple responded with, it means to follow in the footsteps. And Śrīla Puri Maharaj corrected him and said, no, it means to follow in the footprints.
So footsteps, follow me up the hill. We're following in Maharaj's footsteps. Well, you're just walking behind me. Footsteps. Footprints means just put your foot exactly right. Can you go across the face of White Mountain back here? It gets to a point, you don't follow in the footsteps, you follow exactly where the last guy stepped, or you're not going to make it through the pass. So that's what it means. Follow in the footsteps. Actually, in Raganuga means follow in the exact. Don't go outside of these steps. You want to get through the pass, right? Then stop arguing and just follow exactly in this line of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, and you'll get through the pass to Raganuga. No. They want to change everything. Everything's different now. We got to just open it up to people. Off the cliff.
One time I Maharaj also said that knowledge, even knowledge of the scripture, the Shastra, can be the greatest impediment in progression of devotion. So, these days we see that, many devotees are absorbed in gathering knowledge about the higher world, some of the topics that you've been discussing. So but at the same time our acharyas have given so many books, so much knowledge. What is the balance for the sadhaka? Where do we draw the line in terms of what we should learn and know?
We're very fortunate we are very fortunate when we are living in the living presence or the living time of our guru, because then it's just a may I not question. After that, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to get the clear answer. If at that time the devotee has the guidance of a Vaishnava with whom he or she feels fully under the ashraya, shelter of the Supreme Lord, if one has such a Vaishnava in holding above, then naturally we can ask that Vaishnava. If we don't, then we might ask those who had that acquaintance. What did they say? Just like we will ask each other, even what did Prabhupada say about the deities in Vṛndāvana wearing black on Ekadasi? Or things like that. I don't know, I wasn't there. What did he say about the way Radharani's hair is to be kept? Or did he say anything? And there are so many things. We all weren't always there. So we can go to someone whom we believe in, whom we have respect for, and we can ask. And then we can understand from that plane also. Then we may also understand, we may take that guidance from within also. Our guru is within. He lives within. Not just without in form of deity, sitting on the shelf in form of books. He also lives within, and we may also take that guidance, inspiration from within. In any case, one should go cautiously. And for example, when the Gāyatrī-mantrārtha Dīpikā was published, and some devotees saw yesterday, Śrīla Puri Maharaj looked at this book for over an hour and a half. It deals on a very esoteric subject matter, the Gayatri Mantra. And his main concern was that it should not have even one word of speculation. It should have only what is given by the previous acharyas, right down to every single word. No adulteration, no concoction, no speculation, you see? Then the chapters of the book were pointed out. There were previous acharyas, current acharyas, and disciples of current acharyas in that in that book. That it's a, what do you call it? It's like a compendium. And there was a discussion for over an hour and a half about certain aspects of Gayatri and Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura and so many things like that. And he called for another book that was published 40 years ago, and his article had mentioned some of the things and everything like this. And the third article in the book was by Śrīla Mahārāja himself. We had included his article there. And we took the subject in a chronological order, beginning with Om, then Brahma Gayatri. There were 2 articles on Brahma Gayatri. I wrote the first article on Om because it begins from Om. First there is Om, the 3-syllable Gayatri. Then the Gayatri, and it goes all in. And the last is Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. We did not take it in an order of our higher gurus first. We just took it in the order as you chant. Om, Bhur, Bhuvas, while you chant the mantra. So he was being shown all the articles, and his own article was there. And Bhaktivinoda Thakura's article was there. And articles of, what, 3 sannyasis, right? One, Tribhuvan Maharaj, Nandan Swami Maharaj, and myself. Then there was Śrīla Maharaj's article, his own article, Bhaktivinoda Thakura's article, and Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. I think it went like this. At the end of that nearly 1 hour plus time, Kamalaksha went back into the room and asked his Guru Maharaj if he could read that book, you see. Now the book even contains articles by him. Then Śrīla Maharaj said to him, generally one learns about one learns about Gayatri from his Guru. In other words, not just by reading books can you just learn these things in any meaningful way. Now his own article was in there also, you see. So then later Kamalaksha told me that, and he thought this might be some kind of like a blow to me, you see. And I said, no, Prabhu, I'm always a student. I am always eager to make progress and learn from higher Vaishnavas. Actually, this Gayatri book was written for 2 types of people. It was not written for you. I told Kamalaksha, this wasn't written for you. You're Śrīla Mahārāja's disciple, and you're serving him and living right with him. I didn't write this book for you. This book is for my disciples, so they will know. And it is for my godbrothers and godsisters who did not have the opportunity to hear from certain Vaishnavas because of the environment of the time. So it is what I got, and it is shared with them, you see. And it is for my disciples. I did not write this book for everybody's disciple to know about Gayatri, and it cannot be learned just from reading books, you see. But if we get those books and our connection also, yes, we may learn something there. So it's a combination of things, acquiring the right understanding. Even Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is locked. It's locked. And it cannot be accessed without the grace of the Vaishnavas. Only a certain plane of knowledge. How many people have you known have wandered in temples carrying the 5th canto? Not many. Not many at all. Very hard to enter the Bhagavatam. Very hard to enter the Bhagavatam. Even the reading of Bhagavad Gita may not produce any desirable result if it is not read in the authorized manner. It must be heard from an authorized person, and you should be authorized to read it also. So many things are in Bhagavad Gita. That's why there is a Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura edition. It's not the same as Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's completely different. It's different. Because it is there in Bhagavad Gita. But how to enter so deep into Bhagavad Gita that you find mañjarī-rasa? Who can say? But Bhagavad Gita also contains mañjarī-rasa. So even Bhagavad Gita. So I didn't try to read Bhagavad Gita. I got Bhagavad Gita from my guru, from Prabhupada. I didn't go out and find a Bhagavad Gita. Then Prabhupada gave the Bhagavad Gita and gave it out to the world. So whoever gets the Bhagavad Gita, yes, they can have some entrance into the Bhagavad Gita. But then if they reject the person who's giving the Bhagavad Gita, do they go on and become great Gita scholars? Maybe, in the external sense. But do they get do they actually enter in what the Bhagavad Gita is about? The answer is no. They simply become great scholars. I have seen many Brahmins, sannyasis, become what's called as dambik. They had big gyan, and they became dambik. Dambik means puffed up. Dambik Brahmins. And they and when someone was selected by the guru to be to carry on the mission, they thought, he doesn't know the Shastra like I do. That very educated man gave the complaint. He doesn't know the Shastra like I do. He's not from Brahmin family like I am. All these things, high birth, may push one down. Great knowledge may push one down. No, he didn't know the Shastra like you. He wasn't born in a high family like you. But he knew how to serve. And he pleased his guru. And therefore he was the fit person to carry on after his guru. So it's nice, and I have seen the example of Acharya and disciple and these things repeatedly for many years. I have quite a, personally a good experience of these things. I've been able to see these things. I've been able to ask questions of senior Vaishnavas and get clear, definitive answers and so forth. And it's a fact, many devotees didn't have a source that they could inquire from. And when inquiring from somebody, they sometimes got the wrong answers. So.
Question over there, Mark.
I'm seeing everybody's tired. I'm getting to the point of rambling, so. If it's important and people are comfortable, I'm comfortable, but I don't want to just make you feel you have to be here.
We just have 10 minutes more.
All righty.
Or so it's about 9:30 now.
Other Buddhists is preparing.
Madame Mohan has a question.
Yes. We'll.
Actually, Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Śrīla Prabhupada, they've so clearly showed us how to go to this higher understanding, whatever. And I see some devotees, they don't know the philosophy so well, they can say that. They say, well, I'm doing this because I feel more Krishna conscious, whatever. But then we have other devotees who seem to know the philosophy for many years and seem to be sincere, but still how are they attracted, or how can they not see the obvious what Bhaktisiddhanta said was leading?
Good question. One thing is, I don't know very many of my godbrothers or godsisters that know actually what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said about these things. If you didn't hear from Srila Sridhar Maharaj or Srila Puri Maharaj, you couldn't possibly know what he said about these things, because these topics are not discussed in Prabhupada's books. Only the general idea that the higher leelas, Madhurya Leela, and don't imitate and things like this. We are sometimes told, if Prabhupada was here, he would give you Vilap Kushamanjali and Govinda Leelamrita. We are told that. But I've already been told by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples, stalwart ones, respected ones, venerable ones, that he did not allow such readings. He did not allow such discussions. And we were told, you can print one copy, and then it is to be put on the altar. These things are not for the common masses of devotees. And when the higher devotees are actually, the necessity is Vilap Kushamanjali, it comes. Now I'll tell you, some people know all those verses. There's 106 verses. I know verse 102. And I learned that verse, not in memorizing in Sanskrit. I studied this verse for 2 years. And one of those days was also at the Samadhi of Raghunath Das Goswami. He wrote that verse. But I studied it in my room under the guidance of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So to speak, you could say I studied it. During that time, I gave much attention to this verse. Who knows this verse, who has heard this verse from the right source, has access to understand all the Vilap Kushamanjali, the great mystery, revealed, unraveled. Who just tries to study each verse and figure out what all this is really about, in the end, may not understand anything properly. So better one drop of pure nectar than volumes of muddy water. We are like the chakora bird. We are waiting for a drop. If we get the highest drop coming down to us, that will nectarize everything. And if we just drink up so much muddy water, we'll end up with dysentery, not nectarized. So, the first thing is, devotees don't know what he said and how he dealt with this higher subject, and so forth. So that's one thing. In most cases, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is a picture. What book has anybody read of him? None. What verses that he wrote have we studied? None. What songs that he wrote have we sung? Have we studied? None. What stories when he went to Vṛndāvana and he dealt with all these things? And the answer is none, none, and none. Srila Prabhupada only spoke about him twice. You see, he did not go into all the details of that. Then suddenly the time has arisen where actually if we know something about that, then that becomes helpful. And therefore, let me just share you something. Everybody, we naturally think Prabhupada runs this movement, isn't it? Everybody thinks Prabhupada runs this movement. But I know it from my experience. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is not out of the picture. We wanted to go everywhere under Prabhupada, but he still had his own men on this planet. And he controlled things. And they became active in this Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Purima said 8-9 years ago, whatever, 7-8 years ago, there's a wave of sahajiyism coming to your countries, Western world. A wave of it. And he looked at 3 or 4 of us and said, you must preach against this. In the last year of his life, he said, a mob, a gang has appeared in your country. They're preaching all the things of Viśvanātha. Yes, these things are there. But there is qualification for this. And preaching means nam sankirtan, nam prachar, not pseudo-Vaishnavism. But 7-8 years ago, it's like a wave. It's like the surfers, if they're in the ocean and someone says, there's a wave. They turn around and you can see it. So, we went out and went, a wave of Sahajism. It was just like, didn't see nothing. All of a sudden, we felt the surge. That year itself, there was just like, boom, the surge of it started. And it was coming, and it's coming from many sections. And he knew it well. You could say he knew it also well from after the bona fide presentation will come the cheap imitation from those who don't want to pay the real price of surrender and service and sacrifice. It's like a natural thing, you see. In any case, it seems he was right on both points. We are not gopi haters. And as you must be able to sit here and understand, well, it's not like I'm sitting here and I'm saying, don't say, don't hear, don't read, don't, and just walk away and go Hari Bol. It's obvious, I know something about that plane too. I've also heard about those leelas there also. But it is not like it is being presented in a big festival and everybody reading any book. There are 16-year-old girls reading Govinda Lilamrita. All sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna, because they identify with gopis. If you go to any brahmachari ashram and you ask the brahmacharis, let's read Krishna book with Maharaj before we take rest. You go, Jai, killing Denakasura, Bakasura, all the younger boys, they like to hear, like the little boys, all right? You have any children, 9 years old boys, or feisty little mountain climbers who settle them down to hear about Krishna with the gopis? No way. We want to hear about the killing pastimes of the demons, right? Why? Because they identify materially with the cowherd boys. And the girls identify materially with the gopis. And these older ladies, even they're 50, they're still identifying materially with the gopis. We're still in this material identification, and we should not carry that there to the divine Leela of Krishna. Better to hear about the killing of the demons. The Narthas are killed. They're also destroyed by that process. We have material identification, and it will not do good there. It will not serve well there. So we should not go too much in that plane, that direction. And of these things that we speak about, all I have heard from their camp is the lower purport of it. I still haven't heard the high purport of it. I have heard the high purport of it. I've seen the high ecstasy of it also. I've seen it unravel right in front of my eyes to the point I thought I was going to stop breathing. I haven't seen that from them at all. Only a shallow representation of the higher thing, not actually coming down and giving the Vraja-bhāva. Only the words are there. So therefore I'm under order and I'm under inspiration, and I have my experience that this is a cheating plane. This is a cheating plane. The plane is real, the approach is similar, but it is not authorized. There is an authorized method, and that begins and remains with qualification. How to qualify for that sweet taste of divinity. In hearing from the proper agents, we will become established. And it is not like this. You heard it, and that's it. Now you understand mañjarī-bhāva. Okay, mañjarī, Rupa Goswami, Manjari, Lalita Manga, Labanga Manjari, and all the Guna Manjari, and you just got your whole little map and your little meditation down. That's not it at all. You may not even be able to remember their list of names. There's no qualification for mañjarī-bhāva to be able to cite the Ashtamanjaris and who they are and who they were. That is not the qualification. The qualification is that also. We must serve those people to their satisfaction, and they may take us in there, and we may have some feeling and appreciation for that plane of reality, that plane of existence. It is their prerogative, not ours. So we are simply beggars. Do you know what this means? Ask that boy when he comes to town next time. Does he know what this is? Maybe he does. We are beggars. This is a beggar's cloth. It is to beg. It's fancy beggar's cloth, right? Silk cloth. It's a beggar's cloth, uttariya. And what are you begging? Food? What do you beg? What do you beg? We are beggars for a drop of divine love. A drop of divine mercy. That's what we are beggars of. Tridandi bhikshus. We are beggars of love. And we are told for that love we must beg service. So we are beggars of service. We beg only service. And real service means I don't want any remuneration for my service. The only thing I seek is your satisfaction. We seek the satisfaction of Guru, Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. No other remuneration. They are satisfied. Oh, but you're not getting the nectar. That is the nectar, Prabhu. They are satisfied. When they are satisfied, my heart is fulfilled. Not that, like a king, you please him, then he gives you some land. He gives you a princess. He gives you some gold or jewels. Not that way. Really, you please him. He is happy. That is all, you see. Just like if you love your children, you do things with them, for them. They are happy. And you are happy to see them happy, isn't it? That's all. Not that they have to come and, reciprocate that with you and tell you how much they love you or do anything from their side, come and make you, surprise you with breakfast in bed or whatever people do. No. You are happy to make them happy. Well, take that to its higher plane of selflessness, service, and sacrifice, and we are happy to make the Vaishnavas happy, if they are happy. Once I saw an opportunity to please a Vaishnava, and Ramdas Prabhu had made a deity, had got a deity, 350 kilos deity of Lord Narasingha made in South India, Lakshmi Narayan, for Srila Puri Maharaj. Lakshmi Narasingha. And according to the calendar, according to the time, according to the people involved, I realized this deity cannot reach Mayapur in time for the installation unless I go to Mahabalipuram, pick it up in a truck myself, and drive it 5 days to Mayapur. And that was just going to be one horrific ride. And nobody would want to do that in a 1.5 ton pickup truck. So I piled the brahmacharis in the truck and off we went for just one of the most hellish rides I've ever been on in my life. And right to the door of Gopinath Gaudiya Mutt, and there was some this and that, and then Srila Puri Maharaj came, and we came to see him, and he was about 96 or 7 years old, and then he stood up and he embraced us, and he was so happy that Lord Nrsingadev had come in time for the installation, and that's what it was all about. It was just all about just seeing our niche and getting in there and just doing something to please someone whom we had great reverence for as a senior Vaishnava. At least he was the most senior Vaishnava I could find on this planet. So then we don't ask anything, and a little embarrassing moment happened the next day. I went to talk something with Srila Puri Maharaj, and he thought I was asking him for money. He misunderstood and thought I was asking him for money. And then he told me, Baba, I don't have any money. And I thought, oh my God, he thinks I'm asking him for money. He said, but if you need money, you ask Ramdas Baba. So, but I learned right there, I just took it as mercy. There's some instruction. Don't, I wasn't thinking to ask for money, but I was almost chastised, some misunderstanding. So maybe some plane of impurity that I can't even see within myself, but something came and it pierced me on that moment. I thought, oh, he thinks I'm asking him for money. So somewhere in that intent just to please the Vaishnava, also something material, and so real mercy came, some situation to pierce into my heart. The pain of purification is more penetrating than the joyful type of purification and the happy service. When they cut through past that and somehow pierce our heart, like maybe it was an anartha dying. I hope so. You see. But generally we look to be blessed and happy and joyful. But pain enters the heart deeper than joy. Separation deeper than union and things like that. So it is said by others that these other group, they are dealing with this whole subject in the mood of sambhog also. That is also another defect. They are dealing with it in the mood of acquirement and familiarity and union with it. We must deal with it in the mood of separation by keeping ourselves a little distant and below. Pujala ragapata gaurava bhange. If it's there in these books, or this book and other books, it will be like King Arthur's shield. The next time you meet, say, yes, we follow the Ragamarg. Pujara ragapata gaurava bhange. It's like the cross in front of a vampire. They don't like that verse. They don't like that verse of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. They try to give some other meaning to it, but it is false. Okay, we just got the axe. Well, I tell one more short, this part. No, I wanted to say this because I know we're going in a day or so. Srila Sridhar Maharaj would sometimes give long talks. His talks were always on his veranda. They were usually 2.5 or 3 hours long. They were just informal talks based on questions and answers. And he was also very, very old at the time. So one day, he used to end he would say, what is time? Someone would say 9:30, 9:20, and he would fold his hands and go, here I stop. He had this term, here I stop. So one day he talked for some time, and then when he would say, here I stop, then they would disconnect the microphones, and he would stop. Someone would say Jai Oms, so one day he came to that position. What is the time? It's 9:20. Here I stop. But the devotees were so intense, nobody moved. So he saw that. So he continued. He asked, not asked. He he talked for a few more minutes, and maybe 15 minutes, and then he said, so here I stop. And the devotees were just riveted, so he went for about 5 more minutes, and then he just said, here I drop. And he just fell over on his bed. And the film, everything kept going, the microphone kept going. He just laid on his back, and he just kept talking. And a few devotees stayed, but here I stop, here I stop, here I drop. So, Go Premanandi.